Alright, hello and welcome to my YouTube. I figured I'd start this off with a bang and do a ranking of all the programming languages. This will hopefully piss off just the right people. So yeah, let's get right into it. So first up, we've got Go. Go is a language written at Google in an effort to prevent people from shooting themselves in the foot. It's kind of a new language. It's got a heavy focus on concurrency. I hate it. I've written some Go. It always felt like I was fighting it, and I like shooting myself in the foot. So I think I'm gonna put that in D tier for now. We'll see how this tier list evolves as we go along. So I think this is Bash. Bash is just like the default scripting language under Linux, which I think that maybe it goes in B tier because it's very useful and ubiquitous. I believe this is Elm. Elm is a compile to JavaScript language. So compile to JavaScript as like a general rule of thumb, that's pretty D tier. Elm has some decent ideas. It's like a heavily functional type deal. It's like kind of Haskell inspired. But I feel like when you do compile to JavaScript, you end up kind of half-assing stuff. So I think I'm gonna put it in D tier, but above Go for now. Basic. Basic is the first programming language I ever wrote anything in. It's kind of a shit tier language, but a lot of people learn programming on it, so I think maybe I'll put it in C tier for that. Has the cursed goto as the like default flow control method, which goto considered harmful and all that. This is Batch. This is the default scripting language for Windows, which is bad, but still useful. Like, if you're using Windows and you need to automate something, Batch is probably the first thing you'd reach for. Next up, I think this is Brainfuck. Brainfuck is a joke language that only has I think 8 valid characters as syntax, and they're all like punctuation. So maybe that goes in F tier. But on the other hand, Brainfuck simulates like a ticker tape state machine, which is a useful concept to learn about so you know what? We'll put it above Go in D tier. This is Java Lisp. What is it called? Clojure. This is Clojure. So Clojure's a Lisp. I generally like Lisps. I generally hate Java. The Java virtual machine is the only part of Java that's good, and I guess that's the only part of Java that this uses, so I can't knock it too much. However, true Lispiness, I think you're kind of you're fighting uphill if you're trying to get all the benefits of Lisp without having a runtime that's dedicated to it. So I think I will put that in C tier for now. Coffeescript is a compile to JavaScript language that no one uses anymore. No one should have ever used. Compile to JavaScript languages are bad. It goes in F tier for sure. C++. I'm going to skip that for now. I'll see how I feel later. I think that this is Crystal, which is one of these newish languages where it's written by one dude, and it's kind of trying to be an alternative to C, trying to be like a low-level systems programming language with some syntactic sugar, maybe like to write games or whatever. I think this one is one of the ones that builds on top of LLVM, which is admirable. It kind of gives it some of the same advantages as running on top of the JVM. So I will put that in. I'll put that in C tier, but high C tier. This is CSS. CSS is not a programming language. It's not going to get ranked because it's not real. It's like a markup language. Dart, that's an easy F tier from me, dog. This is a language written at Google because of hubris. No one asked for it, and it's not good for anything comparatively. DirectX. DirectX is Microsoft's graphics language. I mean, it's useful and good, but the proprietariness is bad. I'm gonna put it in D tier. Maybe it'll end up in C. I don't know. D. D is kind of like C++ in that it builds on the ideas of C and tries to make them better. I think broadly speaking, D does a better job of this than C++. However, it is far less commonly used, and as a result, doesn't have quite the same, ubiquitous library support, etc., as C++. Like C++, you'll get the answer to any question you ask on Stack Overflow. D, probably not so much. But I like D. I've enjoyed writing D. I'm gonna put it in B tier for now. I like Erlang. Erlang is a language written by Ericsson, the telecommunications company, for specifically doing like concurrent programming, concurrent parallel programming, probably both. Not going to get in the weeds on the difference. If you have a problem that is well solved by Erlang, you will have a good time using Erlang. It's not really a general purpose language. Like, you're going to need a pretty big shoehorn if you want to write everything in Erlang. So I think I'm going to put that in. I mean, it's got really cool ideas though. It's basically it tries to solve some of the same problems as Go, but it's not nearly as like arrogant and annoying, in my view. This is Elixir. This is a compiled to Erlang language that aims to be a lot friendlier. I'm gonna put that at a high B tier. I've used this. I worked at a company that used Elixir as a backend language for a web app, and it was pretty fun, and I picked it up pretty quick. So, not a huge amount of complaints. It's kind of a niche language, not like the most popular, not the most well supported, but it's cool. Fortran. I've never written any Fortran. Fortran is an ancient language. It's like the kind of fit the same niche as C did before C was a thing. It's kind of irrelevant these days. I think that probably in low C. Not a lot of people doing Fortran. I have no idea what this is. No idea. This is Hack, which is like Facebook PHP. Fuck Facebook. F tier. Bottom of F tier. Haskell. So Haskell is like the pureliest functional programming language that anyone ever gets any work done in. All the smartest people I know write Haskell. I think you need to have some sort of like alien brain to really be able to use its full potential. Like you gotta just think weird to do Haskell right. But the upside of that is learning Haskell will teach you a lot about programming. So I think that's gonna go in B tier somewhere. I also use this to configure my VM, or my window manager, my WM. So overall good. Definitely not smart enough to really use it, but cool language. I appreciate what it's doing, even if I can't really use it to any great effect. I think this is Hacks. Hacks is one of these like multi-target. Maybe it's written by a single dude, kind of low level, not really sure what niche it fits in. Languages. It's like Crystal, but I've heard of it more than Crystal, so I'm gonna put it at the top of C tier here. HTML5 is not a language. APL. APL is a language that is made entirely out of weird symbols. You need like a special keyboard to write in it. Nobody really seriously does APL. It is super cool. It's like all about doing like matrix transformations and stuff like that. Probably like some quants use it for like stock trading and stuff like that. I don't know where I would put APL. I think it's really cool. It's incredibly impractical, but it's really cool. I'll put it on top of C tier. I've never written anything in APL, but you know, if someone wants to send me an APL keyboard, I will. Java, easy F tier, bottom of F tier. Java is the opposite of Haskell in that writing Haskell will make you smarter and better at programming, and Java will rot your brain. The more Java you write, the worse you get at programming. It's like only useful if you want to be an old person working at like an insurance company or something like that. Do not recommend writing Java. The JVM, which is what underpins Java, is actually a good idea, and there are some languages like Kotlin that run on top of the JVM that are, marginally better. I'll put Kotlin at the bottom of D tier. I've never really fucked with Kotlin too much, but I think it's still too Java for its own good. This is Julia. Julia is a scientific computing language. It's kind of like R. Where's R? Kind of like R. Kind of like Matlab, but it's I would put it as the best of those three. So let's do R and Matlab. So actually, let's put Julia here. Julia is a B tier language. There's like Julia notebooks. Like notebook format is really cool. I'm into it. Then we've got let's see, R. R is like a statistical programming language that is used by grad students to do math. It's useful, but it indexes arrays at 1. And indexing arrays at 1 is terrible, and you should never do it. So I think I might put it in D tier because of that. It's just not, like, it's barely a real programming language. You start arrays at 0. Maybe it deserves better. Here, I'll put it at the end of C tier. It's really basically only used by grad students. Latex. Latex is not a programming language. Latex is very, very useful. I like Latex a lot. It's useful for doing like layouts of science papers and stuff like that, and it's great at that, but it is not a real programming language. All right, this I think is Common Lisp. If this is that scheme, yeah, so this will be Common Lisp. Common Lisp is maybe our first S tier. It's kind of debatable. I like Common Lisp. Lisp is a language that uses parentheses as its like only syntactical element, which can be really difficult to get used to. You definitely want like at least something that will color code matching parentheses so that you can wrap your head around like a bajillion parentheses on your screen. But the fact that it uses it's such a regular syntax means it's really, really easy to transform your programs into other programs and do metaprogramming, which means it's very easy to write code that's completely unintelligible to anyone else. This is hard. I really love Lisp. I'm going to put it in S tier. It's just not that useful on like a practical level. It doesn't have the greatest like library support, but like, it's not going to be easy to do a lot of things in Lisp. But once you're in your own space that you've defined for yourself, it's incredibly powerful. I think it's S tier. Logo is a learning language where you drive a turtle. It's a solid B tier for what it is. It's not really a real programming language, but at the same time, it's like very useful for learning how to program. It's like baby's first programming language, and you can't knock it too much. Probably B tier is too high. I'll put it at the end of C tier. Lua. Lua is a great little scripting language. It's used a lot in video games to like do UI. So you'll like write your game in something performant like C or C++, and then you can have random like artists and stuff like that do little Lua scripts on top of it for like bits of the UI. The problem with Lua is that it indexes arrays at 1, which is wrong. And so it gets knocked down to C tier. Here in C tier. Algol 60. This is like of historical significance and nothing else really. It was like the de facto like university programming language for a long time, I believe. I was definitely not around when Algol was relevant. I'm just gonna put it in C because whatever. It's got historical significance, but not really too much usefulness these days, and I think probably Fortran is used a bit more. This is like the Wolfram, not Wolfram Alpha, but the like Wolfram programming language. Steve Wolfram is an asshole, and I don't like proprietary languages, so D tier. Matlab. Matlab, it's useful if you particularly have a problem that needs to be solved in Matlab. It's like a heavy scientific computing language, kind of like Julia. It's not written by an asshole, but it's still proprietary. Yeah, I'll put it there. I'd rather write Matlab than Go. This is Nim. Nim is like Hax and Crystal. I think Nim is one of these that targets the LLVM. I'm going to put that at the top of C tier. It's kind of a niche language. It's trying to be like a C-like language. I feel like of these three, I feel like Hax doesn't, maybe not quite in the same category. I don't know. No, it doesn't deserve B tier. Yeah, C tier. C tier for Nim. CUDA. I want to put it in F tier because I hate proprietary garbage. But in terms of getting stuff done on a GPU in a highly parallel way, it is the best tool for the job. I'll put it in C tier. I really don't wanna. But practically speaking, I think I have to. Yeah, I have to. Objective C, proprietary garbage. The worst kind of proprietary garbage. The like Apple decided that they need to like make their own thing so that they can be different. Fuck walled gardens. Fuck Apple. Rotten hell. Opengl. Opengl is kind of I don't really. It's like it's one of these very high level functionally languages. I think C tier. Getting a lot of things in C tier. I don't really know much about it. I mean, it's got to be better than Algol, right? I think people still use Opengl. I think R deserves better, even though it indexes arrays at 1. Put it there. Opencl is, I'm going to put that right next to CUDA, because it is worse than CUDA, but it is an open standard, unlike CUDA. So it gets points for that and loses points for not being as... I mean, at least my impression is that it's harder to work with. I've never really written much in Opencl and CUDA. Very, very, very little. Opengl. Opengl is a graphics programming language. It is probably your best bet if you want to learn to speak GPU. It's the most ubiquitous. It'll run on anything, whereas it's like the DirectX of everything else that isn't Microsoft. It also runs on Microsoft stuff, so yeah, I mean it's fine. Opengl is fine. Cobalt. Cobalt, I'm gonna put that above Fortran. That's another like ancient language that has historical significance, but not really used anymore. Although if you can program Cobalt, there are like insurance companies and stuff like that that have like ancient mainframes that still run on Cobalt and they need people. So, you know, it gets props for that. You know, I'll put it, yeah, it's about same as Clojure. Assembly. Assembly is S tier. Assembly, I mean, everything runs on assembly eventually, right? Like all languages end up being assembly when your computer is executing them, with very few exceptions that aren't relevant here. Yeah, assembly, you don't want to write assembly yourself, but in terms of its power, there are things you can do in assembly that you can't do in any other language, and I think for that it gets the top of S tier for now, because there are things you can do in assembly that you can't do anywhere else. Also great if you're doing like real hardcore embedded programming, although most of the time you'll probably be using C. This is a Perl is a joke. Perl, so you know there's that joke, if you have infinite monkeys with infinite typewriters, eventually they will spit out some Shakespeare. And the like second part of that joke that people don't usually tell is that everything else the monkeys spit out with their infinite typewriters will be syntactically valid Perl. So C tier? Somewhere in C tier. I mean, people use it. It's like a little scripting language. It's fine. If you've been Stockholm syndromed into writing Perl, then, you know, I'm sorry. PHP. The web used to run on PHP. PHP is not a great language, but it gets the job done. It was very ubiquitous. I mean, still is. WordPress is written in PHP. And so much of the web is built upon WordPress, so it deserves some love, but enough love to get it out of D tier. I'm just gonna put everything in C. Okay, we'll have to rearrange some of this stuff. Yeah, but I think actually PHP is significant. Like less relevant in 2022, but it goes somewhere in here. I'll put it there. Okay, C++. C++. I don't like C++. Like one of the main features of C++ is that two people can write C++ and then they won't be able to read each other's code. And that sucks. It is... C++ is like the JavaScript of low-level programming. Like it's everything in the kitchen sink. A lot of it is bad. You can ignore half the language and be fine. I don't really like object-oriented programming very much, but I think I'd have to be kind of brain dead not to put it in B tier or above. I mean, maybe it's A tier. I don't have a lot of stuff in A tier. Maybe Haskell's A tier. Yeah, well, we'll do some rearranging. I have no idea what Pony is. I have never heard of that one. This is PowerShell. PowerShell is like the more advanced version of Batch. It's like a Windows built-in scripting language. The problem is, though, that if I can't get the thing that I'm doing done in Batch, I'm not going to reach for PowerShell. I'm going to reach for like a real programming language. Like I could, use Python, JavaScript, or whatever. And I guess, if I was specifically targeting Windows, it's useful. But it's a C tier, and it's below Batch. I'll put it here, above Perl and C tier. Oh, sorry, I had to pop in with the quick edit there. Anyway, C programming language. This is an easy S tier. This is the S'est tier that there is. The C, everything that you use on a computer in your day-to-day life has some parts of it written in C, pretty much, or is built on top of something that's written in C. The Linux kernel is written in C. Your phone is based on the Linux kernel. Many of the things on your phone are written in C, etc., etc. C is great. It's also really great for embedded programming. So if you're like programming microcontrollers, you're probably going to be using C. Or Verilog and Vhdl, which are the things I just edited in because I didn't have them in here previously. And in fact, we'll do those next. And they're basically the same thing. These are hardware description languages. They're not quite programming languages, but I thought it was relevant to include them so that I could have opinions on how they're basically the same, but Verilog is better. And I don't really remember why I think this, because it was a long time ago that I made the choice to learn Verilog and not VHDL, and here we are. These are used for defining how to lay out like gates on actual silicon in ASICs and FPGAs. It's like the next level down from assembly, and actually, you know what, they're going to go in B tier. Because you don't have any option other than using one of these two. Maybe I'll put VHDL in C tier just to have a spicier bit of opinion having here. Anyway, next up is Metal. Metal is Apple's graphics library thing. This is another thing where Apple decided that they just had to be fucking different and built their own thing to further split the community and whatnot. They're garbage. It's garbage. Luckily, we have Vulcan, which is B tier, and you can translate Vulcan to Metal, and so for all intents and purposes, no one will ever have to use Metal, hopefully. I mean, some people will, but they're bad people. Vulcan is kind of a superset of DirectX, Opengl, Metal, and Opencl and CUDA. It kind of tries to be a unifying programming language for working with GPUs, and it's a bit rough around the edges, and I think that there's like a hope in the graphics industry, and like, you know, a GPU field that either Vulcan or something built on top of Vulcan that kind of smooths out its rough edges will become the de facto standard, so we don't have to deal with the other ones anymore. Because, yeah, this is processing. Processing is a library, not a real language. It's useful. It's for like doing art with computers. But I'm not gonna put it up here because it's not really a language. It's processing is the best part of Java. Python. Python is an A tier. I think you have to be. It's like a pretty broke opinion to not put Python A tier or above. It's one of the most ubiquitous languages these days. It's probably one of the most useful languages. Like if you want to get stuff done, use Python. It's easy to learn. I hate the syntax a lot, but you know, you got to deal. Yeah. Python is a lot like Ruby. I like Ruby's syntax more than Python, even though it still uses the same annoying indentation conventions. But Ruby is kind of fading from popularity, and I think I have to put it in C tier because of that. My like first real programming job was in Ruby, so it has a special place in my heart for that. But honestly, mostly used because of Ruby on Rails. Very few people write anything other than Ruby on Rails Ruby. This is Rebel. I don't really know what Rebel is, to be honest. It's like one of these. I think it's kind of like Erlang, maybe. I don't really know. I'm not even gonna rank it because I really don't know anything about it. I also don't know what this is. Rust. Rust is an A tier language for sure. Rust is the best low-level programming language outside of C, in my view. Rust is kind of tricky to write in, kind of like Haskell. You have to think a certain way to write effective Rust, because it solves the problem of memory allocation without a garbage collector, but it still gives you memory safety, and does this using something called a borrow checker, and you have to write with that in mind, which can take some learning. And I think that, you know, by default, if I'm looking to do some sort of low-level programming, I won't reach for Rust. I'll reach for C. But if I was working on something that got pretty big, or working on a bigger team on something low-level, I think Rust is definitely the way to go, because the safety guarantees that it gives you become more relevant the more cooks there are in the kitchen. Scala. Scala is a language that runs on top of the JVM, and it is the one that I have heard the most good things about. I've never written in it myself, but I think that it deserves a C tier. I think a C tier and maybe above Clojure, because Clojure is cool, but I think, again, like, downsides of not being a true Lisp, and that gives it, that means the fact that you're having to contort your brain into parentheses is a little bit more annoying, because you don't get all the upsides of having a true Lisp. So it's going to go up here. I don't like that we have 3 lines of C tier now. So maybe time to do a little bit of rearranging. Some things are going to get knocked down. Algol is only of historical significance, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but so probably gonna knock that one down. Perl, Perl, like, you need to have Stockholm syndrome to use Perl, so let's knock that one down as well. Okay, it's looking a little better. Basic, maybe. I mean, nah. Basic. Well, okay, we'll knock it down a few notches, because it's really not relevant in 2022, outside of being a learning tool. And even then, I historical significance, but not really relevant nowadays. All right, this is Scheme. Scheme is a Lisp. It is one of my favorite Lisps. It is not quite as useful as Common Lisp, but it is a lot cleaner. It's a great learning tool. I think everybody should learn some Scheme because it will make you a better programmer to learn to think that way, and you'll have an easier time learning it than Common Lisp. It's a very small language, so it's very easy to like learn all there is in it, and then it's very powerful. So you can like build up from the like small kernels that you get very easily, and yeah, just it's definitely on the path to enlightenment. You got to do some Scheme. Scratch. Scratch is a learning language like Logo. It's not strictly speaking like a real programming language, but I think it gets some respect for just being one of the best ways to teach kids about programming. I used to be a teacher's aide, and I taught kids how to program in Scratch, and it was a lot of fun. Next up, we have Smalltalk. Smalltalk is a language that lots of people talk about how great it is, and I have never written any of it. I feel like people don't really write a lot of Smalltalk. I want to put it in B tier because of all the good things I've heard about it, but I'm actually going to put it in C tier because I just don't think anyone really uses it seriously. SQL. SQL is not a real language. It's a useful thing to know. Like, definitely all programmers should learn some SQL, and maybe it deserves a place up here because of that, I guess, because I gave Logo a place, and Logo's kind of not a real language either. I don't know. I'll loop back to SQL later. We'll see how I feel about it. Swift. Swift is Apple trash. It is the best Apple trash, but it is still Apple trash. Don't do proprietary things. Just don't. All right. This is TCL. TCL is like a little embeddable scripting language. This is like some of the very first programming I did was in TCL. I was like in middle school. I had a very smart friend who taught me about TCL. I have since forgotten basically everything about it, but I know that people use it for like scripting on embedded platforms. So like if you are making like a scientific instrument and there's like some things that you need to tweak without like recompiling stuff, you might embed TCL into whatever you're doing so that you can do that tweaking on the fly. And so I guess, get some respect for that. Maybe even a B tier. I think it's like the de facto thing that people use for that. And maybe there is a reason behind that. Maybe I'll put in C tier, and then I have to knock something else out of C tier. Who's getting knocked out of C tier? This is tricky. Maybe I'll put batch up here because of its ubiquity. Maybe, whatever. I'll figure it out later. Typescript. Typescript is like somebody decided that JavaScript needs types, and then they just stuck the types on top with like sticky tape, and it's bad and dumb. I don't think that compile to JavaScript languages are good as a general rule of thumb. I think TypeScript had some good ideas, maybe a little bit, like it was a little bit more relevant in the days where like Coffeescript as well was relevant, like back when JavaScript was really garbage, but JavaScript's not really garbage anymore. And I think that tacking types on top of something is going to give you many of the headaches that types induce, and few of the advantages of having types. Like the best case scenario for types is something like Haskell or Common Lisp, and TypeScript is kind of the worst case, where it's just like an afterthought that is tacked onto a language that doesn't have types and is built around not having types. I don't have anything against types as a general rule, but I don't think this is the way to go about it. So it goes in D tier, and in fact, I'm going to put it in low D tier. I'd rather write TypeScript than Matlab, but not brainfuck. But it's better than Elm, so maybe Elm is actually worse than brainfuck. That seems fine. Visual Basic is like a Microsoft Stockholm Syndrome language. If you are a Microsoft person and you do a lot of Microsoft things, especially if you use Excel a lot and then you need to like do advanced things in Excel, you're going to end up using Visual Basic because you don't have a choice. And I guess D tier for that, but a high D tier. Like it is useful. It's just only useful because there aren't better options for the specific things that you end up using Visual Basic for. WebAssembly and JavaScript I'm going to do together. All right, almost there. Zig. Zig is somewhere here. Zig is like Crystal and Nim and Hax, except I don't really. I feel like Hax is a little bit different than the other two. Zig and Nim and Crystal are all like aiming to do the same thing. They're like small languages, kind of like C, that try to be better than C, but still have the same like low level speed and power. I think these three maybe all target the LLVM, and then this one optionally targets the LLVM, but also compiles to like JavaScript and stuff like that. And this is maybe meant more as like a video game programming language than a general purpose one. But I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Definitely these four exists kind of in the same mind space for me. All right. Microsoft Java, aka C#. It's basically the same as Java, but it's used for game development in Unity, and lots of stuff is written in Unity. So I guess it gets like a bit of more of a pass. By the same token, maybe I should bump Java up. No, I'm not going to do it. No. Fuck. People can develop for Android and Kotlin. Yeah, so high D tier. I wouldn't want to, like, I don't, actually, it's not that bad a language. It's I'll put it at the bottom of C tier. I don't like it. I don't want to, but it's got some neat language features last time I checked. It's the people who I know that write C# are generally a lot less brain dead than the people who write Java. So something about it is doing something good. All right, now we have JavaScript and WebAssembly. These kind of go hand in hand. WebAssembly is a can of worms, but it also is one of the things that I think lifts JavaScript into absolute S tier. So JavaScript, absolute S tier. You know what? I'm going to put it below C, but just barely. JavaScript is incredibly ubiquitous. It is a garbage language. It is absolute trash, but I love it. You can do anything you want in JavaScript. It is full of foot guns, but it's also full of like it's like easier to do, almost like there are more things that are easy to do in JavaScript than in any other language. And I think it's incredibly ubiquitous. Every browser is running JavaScript. You can hit F12. Like if I hit F12 right here and I go to console, this is a JavaScript. I can do JavaScript things immediately. And I think the way that it's integrated with all of these like features on the web and in Node is great. There is something called Quick.js, which is like an embeddable version of JavaScript, which kind of does the same stuff that TCL does. It's just JavaScript's eating the world, and for better or worse. I think if you throw away like half the language, there's like some the like bit that's left is actually kind of a great language. It has a lot of nice features. There are some things that are super fucking stupid, there's too many too many. You know, one of these days I'll do a whole video. I mean, this has been beaten to death all across the internet, but I'll probably do a video on like JavaScript, the good and the bad parts, at some point. But yeah, JavaScript, terrible. I love it. It's great. You're gonna end up writing JavaScript. You probably can't avoid it. And WebAssembly is one of the reasons that JavaScript is so powerful, because WebAssembly lets you solve one of the most endemic problems to JavaScript, which is that it's interpreted scripting language, which can be kind of slow. I mean, like the magic that people have done to make JavaScript fast is insane. I can't even fathom, the like optimization and like pre-compilation and stuff like that that like V8 and SpiderMonkey do to make JavaScript run fast. Anyway, WebAssembly I will put in B tier, because it is often misused. I think that people who use WebAssembly to like take their whole take a C++ library and like compile it all to WebAssembly and then ship that to someone as a blob on in a web page that's really fucking stupid. I think that if you write like bespoke C libraries to speed up the one part of your JavaScript code that is slow, and then you ship that as like a little tiny blob with WebAssembly, that's great. Sending 100 megabytes of a compiled library to people is really stupid, and it also is kind of antithetical to the openness of the web. I guess since I put Scratch and logo and whatnot here, maybe we can rank SQL. I'll put SQL in C tier as well. Like you want to know SQL, it's fine. It's a de facto standard, so maybe even not even at the bottom of, I don't know, whatever. It's fine. SQL is fine. You're gonna need to understand it on some level, and it will help you, especially if you're ever dealing with a relational database, which you will be. All right. I think that's about it. Yeah, I looked this up. This is F. I don't know anything about F, so I'm not going to rank that. And well, actually, let's do a last pass here and see if I have changed my opinions about any of these as we've gone along. You know what? Okay, so I think Haskell is A tier. I think I would be remiss if I didn't put it up here, because it's truly unique in what it does and how it makes you think. And I think that's very valuable. I like D more than I like C++, but D is used. I really don't want to put C++ above D, but I probably should. I think that's fair. Let's see. Ruby is fine, but does it really truly belong at the top of C tier? It's kind of fading from its former glory. I'm gonna put it down here. Cobalt is still used for things. Fortran, not so much. So maybe we'll bump Fortran down to D tier. It's not really relevant anymore. Smalltalk, I'm going to bump it up because I just feel like I should, even though it's another one of these that no one uses. Everybody always rants about how good it is, so I'm just going to drink the Kool-Aid on that one. Let's see. Brainfuck is better than TS. I really just don't like TS, but yeah, whatever. Elm is better than TS too. Yeah. I think I stand by this for the most part. All right, well, thank you for watching. Get in a fight with me in the comments. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, and goodbye.